Greetings, students. My name is M Manyaka. I'm a primary lecturer for health education, HEC101V. I just want to give you some information regarding the use of data. I hope by now you went to My UNISA, you filled a form that you needed to verify your details. From then, you'll be able to get free data. I hope you are happy with that, because data can be very expensive. Today, I'm going to share with you exam guidelines. Look a little bit at the assignments that you have written, and then we'll take it from there. We are going to discuss the following points: communication, module requirements, specific outcome and assessment criteria, assignment feedback, as I promised, and exam guidelines. I know you're looking forward to this one. When it gets to your communication, I'd like to advise that when you communicate with us, or communicate with me in particular as your lecturer, use the following numbers: 0124296521. My email is emanya@unisa.ac.za, as you know. And please visit My UNISA discussion forums. And when you write an email, always include your module name, your student number, and use my live email. I don't know how to emphasize that. You must know that according to the POPI Act, we might not even answer your emails when you are using your private email. Before I can even get into the presentation, I just want to tell you that your exam is going to be a take-home exam. Due to the COVID-19 lockdown, we can't do business as usual, meaning that we had to adjust our exams, and yours is going to be a take-home exam. What do you need for the exam? You need your study materials for HEC101V, we call it HEC101V. You need your tutorial letter 501, which is a study guide. Tutorial letter 201, which is your exam guidelines. You're going to receive it very soon. I hope you are happy with that. Have your prescribed book, and use your tutorial 101 just to get the guidelines that you are given. And be prepared. Don't take it for granted because it's a take home. You'll be having a textbook. You don't have to prepare. You still need to be prepared. Just to emphasize your needs, what you need to do. At the center, I'm saying preparing for exam, what do you need? You need to study. You need to master your module. Heck, it's a very practical module of everyday things that we need to know ourselves. We need to know for when we look after the children, when we are at school, etc. Participate in all platforms, please. Visit My UNISA. I'm aware that some of you don't have e-tutors. As such, I've sent you activities on My UNISA. I was pleased some of you sent me emails and said, ma'am, we don't know how to answer this and that. I was very encouraged because I thought I'm not talking to anyone. You must also focus on your studies. Connect with fellow students. I'll pause a little bit on that. When you connect with other students, choose what information you take in and choose what information you share. Under the COVID-19 situation, we cannot compromise our system, our immune system, by taking in negative things. Some people say we are setting 2 questions of 50 marks each. I don't know where you get that. So please do not be a prophet of doom to compromise some other people's health. Complete all activities, even if I'm not going to mark you, it's for your own good. Think of practical implication. That's how the exam is going to be, because I cannot just make you rewrite the textbook. You must be able to think practically. What does the module entail? The module entails health-related topics at foundation, intermediate, and senior phase, and also the school environment itself. And the purpose of the health education module is to provide you with knowledge and skills regarding health so that you are able to apply and teach this focus area in an integrated, meaningful way. I'm slow because I want you to hear this. Now I'm going to look at the specific outcome and criteria. When we talk about specific outcomes, we are saying, what are the main objectives for this module? When we talk about assessment criteria, if I've been reading an Mapeo, how can we test if I've met those objectives? If I'm competent and I'm meeting those objectives that have been set. The first, we have 3 specific outcomes. The first one is to help you think about and understand the ways in which you can maintain the health of children and adults in a primary school through health promotion and health education in this classroom, and also just generally promoting health in the school. How do we assess if you do that? You must be able to do this following. Explain the concept of health. Explain how the quality of health, safety, and nutritional status of young child are interrelated. Be able to explain how heredity, behavior, and lifestyle, environment, healthcare system, and development can affect health in South African context or whatever country you are in. Explain the relationship between the health of the child's emotion, social, and cognitive development. When you talk about the child's emotional, social, and intellectual or cognitive development, we are saying, how does health affect these areas? A child who's not healthy, how does that affect their emotions? How does it affect their social development? How does it affect them intellectually? Explain the difference between health promotion and health education. These are all in your study guide. Discuss the concept of health promoting school. This is an international concept, but South Africa, like other member countries of the World Health Organization, has adopted this. Explain the factors that affect school health education. Specific outcome 2, which is more like your main objective, is to help you analyze and apply health education curriculum for your particular phase, whether you are in foundation, intermediate, or senior phase. To show that you are competent in this area, you should be able to identify health education topics which are suitable for the learner in either for foundation, intermediate, and senior phase. This is very important. You cannot go to a foundation phase student and teach them about HIV/AIDS and say you must protect yourself when you have sex. Then the child will, it won't be appropriate for the child. So make sure that you are aligned to the curriculum because it's always age appropriate. Plan suitable learning experiences related to these topics for the learner in either foundation, intermediate, or in the senior phase. Specific outcome 3 is very important. I'm not saying it's the only outcome that you need to focus on, but it's very important in that what we did when we realized that the original book was out of print, we prescribed an alternative prescribed book. So in order to be fair, when I set my exam, I look at the original textbook and the alternative book and chose the topics that are common in both books. This specific outcome says it helps you to identify with issues and procedures of child abuse, child neglect, hospitalization, chronic illness, loss, death, and HIV/AIDS. At the end of this outcome, you should be able to explain the difference between various categories of abuse and child neglect. We've done with this a lot, even in your assignments. Describe the characteristics of abusive adults and abused and neglected children. Explain the role of the teacher towards the abused and or neglected child and abusive parents. If you don't know, you'll confront the parent and mess the whole thing and put the child even in a worse situation. Explain the actions the teacher should take in case of suspicions of child abuse or neglect. Remember, you are not a psychiatrist. You're not a policeman, but there's a role that you have to play as the person who has the first contact with the child. Just from suspicion, there are things that you need to do. You need to know that. Be familiar with the relevant legislation related to child abuse. If you are not, we saw teachers in the media that were accused of child abuse because they've sort of went outside what is expected of them, either because they're negligent or they just didn't pay attention to the relevant legislation. Show insight into the ways in which the experience of illness and hospitalization may affect the child. These topics are also good for you as a parent, as an aunt, as an uncle, as a father. Show insight into the ways in which the experience of illness and hospitalization may affect the child. Explain the effect of chronic illness, loss, death, and dying on the learner and his family, especially on the learner. They will have to come to terms with death at some point. They might also be suffering from chronic illness or their loved ones. You should have insight on how to deal with that situation. Understand the implication of HIV/AIDS on learners, teachers, and their families, and have thorough knowledge and understanding of how to implement the school policy on HIV/AIDS in ECD centers and primary schools. When we do assignments, I might even ask you to write a school policy on HIV/AIDS and other STIs. Right, let's get to feedback on assignments, comments on assignment 1 and 2. First, I must apologize to people who wrote to me to say that they didn't get their results for assignment 1. It might be that they're still going to be marked. We got a notification that they will run them on the 15th. When they are run on that day, you'll get them on the same day. The answers come with your results. In other words, if you have chosen question, your answer is A, and the answer is B, it will show. So you already have your memorandum. If you want to check, you'll go to your prescribed book. The questions were based on the original prescribed book, the Western AE and Rosen E, teaching children about health. I'm mentioning this because I acknowledge the fact that other people had challenges. In UNISA, we work in a cycle form. In other words, what does that mean? It means that we set our tutorial letters 101 in advance. Already, we are preparing tutorial letter for 2021. So I used the prescribed book that we had, not knowing that it's going to run out of print. So we apologize for the challenges. They're making you stronger. It's an assignment. You can get other sources and refer. Assignment 2 needed you to engage a little bit better with your book and other study material. It needed you to study even further. I gave you a case study and questions that caused you to think a little bit. And it's good because now you have to do that for your take-home exam. It was a good exercise for you on your exam guidelines. I even used one of your case studies as an explanation to show you how to handle a case study. And then I'm going to guide you now in this presentation, also in your exam guidelines. I'm also doing that online on my UNISA. Do visit your announcements. Guide you on case studies, reports, lesson plans. You are a teacher. There's no way you can run away from this. I've started this, please check that. The examination period is the May-June for semester 1. For semester 2 is October-November. Dates will be announced, but we already know that you're going to write your May-June on the 8th of June 2020. Please keep on watching every announcement. If it changes, you should be able to see that. Remember that we announce every changes. So don't say because I said the 8th and it has changed, now it's a huge outcry that I've lied to you. No, anything can change. Check your My UNISA. Our May-June has been adjusted. This is why we are even doing a video. We didn't do it last year, but it's because we want to prepare you. We had to adjust because it's no more venue-based. And as you had on the announcement, you are now going to do a take-home exam. You'll be given ample chance. I think it's from 2:30 on the 8th You're going to be given that day and the next day and return it the other day. But what I would advise you is that it's so practical and for me, doable. And for you, if you have read your materials, try to load as early as possible. We have got almost 6,000 students only for this module. So once it becomes congested, I'll be getting a lot of emails where you are frustrated. Finish as soon as you can and start loading. The system will be open for you. How do you prepare for your exam? I already touched on this. You need your study material. If your prescribed book is the original one, you need to use that. In your exam guidelines, I showed those topics that are common. And then also, if you don't have, it means you bought the alternative one, Educational Psychology and Teaching Children About Health in South Africa. It's a South African context of the original prescribed book. And you should be able to get both topics. And some of the topics are not in depth in either of the books, but they're there in your study guide. Read the chapters that are aligned to both that I'll be giving you. The topics, read those chapters with the topics that are aligned to both textbooks. Hints on answering exam questions. It's an open book examination, as I said. What do you need? You must have your smartphone with internet, and if you followed all what has been advised you on, you will be able to get on My UNISA for free, or your laptop that has internet facilities, your prescribed book, your study guide, your pen and paper. Please ask people to look after the children so that you are not disturbed. You take your time. The structure of the content, your HEC101V is at NQF level 5, but I've pitched it up because now you'll be having your textbook. It gives me a chance to allow you to get to do the practical part of your knowledge. Under what you call the Bloom's taxonomy category, it will be on the higher order. Level 6 and 7 mostly. It means you are going to answer short to long questions, including you might be asked to do a summary, a case study, or a scenario, reports, and lesson presentation. But also, it's just a lesson plan. I gave an example. You'll get it on your exam guideline. When you talk about level 1 and 2, you might be asked to list, name, identify, explain, etc. Level 3 and 4, it gets a little bit difficult. You are asked to differentiate, interpret, discuss, define, and demonstrate. Level 5 and 6, you evaluate, you compose a lesson plan, you summarize, you support, you write a report. All this means that you must read for knowledge, and it's very easy in health education. Let me share with you what to do in a case study. It's just my opinion. You can still use what works for you. When you are given a case study, first read the case study. Read it through carefully so that you are ready to answer the questions at the end. Underline the keywords. That's the second step. Why do you underline the keywords? If they talk about Thabo, who seem now to be acting in a different way, and the teacher observing this and this, when you have finished reading and underlining, you'll get an idea of what this concept is. Is this about nutrition? Is it abuse? Is it stress? Is it dying? Is it hospitalization? You'll get that. Read the questions now and go back and you've already underlined. You scan through or you skim through your extract. Then you answer the questions based on knowledge. What do I mean? If I found out this was about stress, oh, okay, I have a prescribed book where it talks about stress. What is my role as a teacher? Go read it and then demonstrate that you understand what the book says and own it. If it's a case study, then they're saying maybe explain what you did to make sure that you relieve the child from the stress, or you make the child understand stress. And if the points are there in your prescribed book, you own it. Okay, I took Mapule and I asked her these questions, and these are the steps that I did to help Mapule. Own the explanation. That makes me realize that you do understand the concept. When you're writing a report, you might be asked to write a report on health issues, such as abuse, hospitalization, bullying, etc. It's not about the format of the report, it's about the content. But just make it a little bit live and real. If the case study indicates the name of the child, just write the topic. This is an incident, a report on the abuse incident of so and so that happened on this date. Then you write the learner's name when it was there, depending on the content of the case study. And be involved. That when I saw that Mapula had some marks on her body, at first I didn't notice, but the other day she came with her whole arm being bent. When I interviewed the learner, she told me that she was hit by an iron, or this and this happened. Then we explain what you did, as though this was a real report in a school, because that's what we want to achieve at the end of the day. It must be meaningful and integrated into other scenarios at school. Make sure you include relevant points as contained in your study materials. So when you go to a study material, is to remind yourself of what needs to be done. Then you own it. When you do a lesson plan, maybe I might ask you to write a lesson plan. And I think in your exam guidelines, tutorial 201, I used the coronavirus, the COVID-19 situation, and said, prepare a lesson where you teach learners about the safety measures for COVID-19. I gave you a template. That's what I would do if I were to set a lesson plan. And then I wrote the learning, the learning outcomes. That is going to guide your lesson. It means your lesson should talk to those learning outcomes, because I said at the end of the lesson, the learner should be able to. So it means your lesson must be so clear that even if I were to teach your student, I'll be very sure that they now understand what was supposed to be understood according to the learning outcomes, learning objectives or learning outcomes. You must also indicate the learning resources. There are many resources. When you do your introduction, link it to prior knowledge. When we mark for our teaching practice, you'll be surprised to see someone teaching about healthy and unhealthy food. You teach like how we're taught when the teacher will stand in front. Today, I'm going to teach you about healthy and unhealthy food. No. Link what you're going to teach to prior knowledge. You can ask the learners, what did you have for breakfast? The other one will say, I had mutoho, I had eggs. No, I ate yesterday's pap, whatever the case might be. When you're going to start talking about healthy and unhealthy food, these children are able to link to what they had at home or what they're having regularly at home. And it makes sense because we need it to be integrated with their real life situation or their environment. And when you do a presentation as well, if it's about communicable and non-communicable diseases, you cannot just start by saying, malaria is a communicable disease. No. First, make sure learners understand your step one. Make sure that the learners understand what communicable diseases are, what non-communicable diseases are. Then your step two, that's when you can start teaching about whatever you're going to teach. Always remember that your lesson should be appropriate to the grade. If it's grade 3, it won't be the same like grade 7 or grade 9. Just make sure that. And in your conclusion, if it's small children, you can make them sing a song, either you give them a work on their worksheet, whatever you decide to do. Finally, I want to talk about plagiarism. I hope you know that this is an offense and disciplinary action might be taken. When we talk about plagiarism, if what you are thinking where you are sitting and say, you know, I don't have to do anything. I'm just waiting for the day they give me my questions. I'm going to copy what is in the book and send it. Or I'm going to take photos and send to my friend because I know if they are struggling, they will write the same things that I've written. That cannot be accepted and you will be caught. So just be honest because it's about you being a better teacher. We are concerned in having quality teachers, in protecting our image that, you know what, we are teachers from UNISA, but we can compete with any other teacher. We can do our work. We have that kind of quality that is required. Once you submit your examination paper online, a report will be generated for me. I will know that you have submitted your work. But remember, I said, try to finish as early as possible and be able to download without having the challenges that are there. My last slide, I show people greeting each other in the new COVID-19 world that we find ourselves. I did this on purpose. That since COVID-19 or the coronavirus is touching on communicable diseases, and this is history, there's no other person who's living now, maybe a few. I saw a man who's 120 something that have seen what we have seen. So don't let this history pass you by. Ask yourself questions like, if I were a principal or the minister or a parent or a teacher, come the day when the learners are going back to school, how am I going to make sure that the environment is safe? How am I going to uphold the guidelines that have been given for the disaster management of this disease? So we are not operating anywhere outside this COVID-19 communicable disease. Know something. I might throw in 1 or 2 questions just to see if you are alive and you are with us. With that, I want to wish you good luck. I know you're going to make it. Some of you did so well in the assignment. I'm so proud of you. Keep doing the good work and be prepared. I wish you all the luck and be blessed. Thank you.